Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maria and this is the Fibre Love podcast. I'm coming to you from a city in the northeast of Scotland called Dundee, and I have started my new podcast despite still editing the previous one. I haven't uploaded that yet, but it's because right now in Scotland it's very dark, the days are very short, and whenever I have a day like this when the light is just really good, I don't have to put the inside lights on, then I will utilise it. I've got a bit of time as well. There's nobody at home. And I've got finished objects. So I thought I would start with the main object that I've been working on since summer. Yeah, in the middle of summer. I would say we started this. This is a test knit, and it's called the Inishmurray Shawl by Tania Barley, the wheelbarrow. I think her business name is the wheelbarrow on Ravelry and Instagram. And I applied for this test knit, I believe it was in August, or was it July? And we had to submit it on the 30th of September. And I failed in doing that, unfortunately, and I feel really, really bad and guilty about that. I had a really great start. I think for the first 2 weeks I was really on top of the game, and I was going mainly through the written rows rather than the charts. Although I utilised the charts every now and then, the written rows were things I was mainly looking at. And I remember I was ahead at the start, and then suddenly I had an eye erosion after almost 1 year, which was very frustrating because when you don't have an episode for so long, you kind of forget you're ill in that way. And it had been, I think, about 8 or 9 months, and that is a long time. Like, in my head I was fine. Usually when I'm having them quite frequently, like my normal is about every two months, then I don't kind of apply for these things because I know that I won't be able to make this kind of commitment to somebody. But sometimes you kind of forget when you've not had it for so long that you are actually, you've got chronic issue like that. So I had an eye erosion not once but twice. I had it in 2 weeks, and I had it a week after the due date, when I was trying to hurry up and trying to get it finished. I thought, oh my God, everyone's like giving it in, and yeah, so there was a lot of pressure on in that time. And I always say this after every test knit, I said I'm not going to buy for another test knit again. And then when I see something so pretty or beautiful, something that I want to be a part of it, and then I go for it, which is, I have to kind of control that. I think that's slightly selfish urge when you've got an issue that might make it that you can't complete it, and yeah, so I did manage to complete this, so I'm so happy about that. I have updated Ravelry with everything except the newer pictures. I have steam blocked this shawl, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to wash and block it and pin it properly, because I think with lace it always helps with that. Yeah, and then I'll probably update the measurements at that point, rather than right now. But yeah, so this is the Inishmurray shawl. It is a top-down triangular shawl. There's 3 sections to this. Basically, the first section, the second section, and the third section, and this would be the scalloped lace bind off. I'll take my little bobble off. Yeah, so the first section has certain amounts of repeats. It's a lace section, and the amount of repeats are optional. So there were 7 repeats that were suggested, but I did 4. And in the second one, again, the recommended repeats were 2, and I did 5. And then for the lace and the scallop bind off, I did as per pattern. The lace, you can't really do, there's only 1 repeat of this, so you had to do like the 1 chart. And then obviously there's not much modification you can do to a scalloped bind off except not do it. And I really wanted to do it because I love that look. I love this look of the scalloped bind off. One of the reasons I think was because of the eye erosion, and for the reason for like not doing the full repeat, but it was also because partly I did like the look of this section a lot more. I think that I love garter, and I love this kind of two-tone. It reminds me of my Meg Gadsby shawl. It's called Playful, and one of the very first items I made ever in my knitting journey, this was back in 2022, the start of 2022, when I started making I wouldn't call that a garment, when I started making actual accessories from patterns. It was one of the first patterns. It was so simple, but I still wear that shawl to this day, and I really like it. So this kind of reminded me of that, and that kind of comfort I get from that shawl. So I wanted to have this section a wee bit bigger. Also, lace isn't my forte. I have done one other item, the Sometime Alone shawl by Sylvia McFadden, which was a lace. I don't think it's intuitive to me. I tend to have the lace, I need to have the lace chart open in front of me on the PDF, and I need to be in a situation where I'm not interrupted or easily distracted. And sometimes that's not possible in a house as dynamic as mine, and especially in the summer when there was a lot of people staying over. My sister was here in the late stages of her pregnancy. There's a lot of people coming over to see her. So there was a lot of times where I just couldn't really give that time to a lace section. Also, lace isn't as intuitive to me as I would say something like colour work. I can pick up a colour work repeat. Most colour work repeats, as long as it's not, if it's like a 4 to 6 stitch repeat, I could really easily memorise that. Anything bigger than that would be difficult, but the lace was difficult for me to kind of memorise and repeat. And so it wasn't something that I could pick up and be portable with. So in that regard, and my house, I decided I wanted to do, and the fact that I liked the look of this section better, I thought I'd make the choice of having 4 repeats here. No, not 4. It's supposed to be 7, and I did. Yeah, I think I did 4. I have the full details in my Ravelry because I was taking extensive notes. I used the private notes function in Ravelry a lot. So I was updating everything in terms of what my weight was, what my meterage was, and I'll talk about the weight and meterage later because I think I came up with issues with using Nutiden. But so that was one of the reasons why there's a slight difference in the look of this shawl. If you look at the Inishmurray Shawl, the sample that Tania's knit, you'll see this section being a bit thinner and this one being a bit bigger. So this section was a slipstick section in the garter. This was so much fun. Honestly, this is such an enjoyable section to do. I really like it. And then you go on to another section of lace towards the end, which is beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. And you can see how carefully this has been designed because the slip stitch kind of continues on into the lace and it continues on into the border itself where you bind it off. I think that's just stunning. It's incredibly designed shawl, really. Honestly, in terms of sheer looks, I think it's one of the most impressive things I've made because I tend to go for the simple and I tend not to go for this stuff because I think I tend to go for something that's more comforting and simple, something a wee bit more mindless. And although this wasn't hard, I wouldn't put it into the mindless category. It is something that I had to give attention to, especially in the lace sections. This lace section I really had to give attention to because it wasn't like a continuous repeat. It was like obviously these petals or flowers, I'd probably say the petals maybe, were growing and they weren't the same. There wasn't like a row repeat, so everything was different and you had to kind of look at each row as you were doing it, and it was quite a lot of rows. I think it was almost 40 rows for this section, so that was a long time. This section probably took the longest for me towards the end, because I had to give a lot of times and the rows had become quite large. And then I did the scallop in about a week, the scallop bind off. This was the first, maybe, I think the 5 scallops, I had to kind of have the pattern in front of me, and then later on it was fine. You memorised it, so I was just binding it off as I was watching the last episodes of Stranger Things, basically. And that helped the time go by. But honestly, I can't really say much more in terms of the pattern. I really, really enjoyed doing it. I think there was that pressure thing towards because I couldn't get it done in time, and there's always that guilt thing. It's not nice, especially when there's a release date. But I think this is going to be an extremely wearable shawl. I do think it's going to turn out probably a wee bit bigger than this. It's definitely more than 2 meters right now on the wingspan, and maybe about 90 centimeters in the spine depth. I haven't done the measurements yet, like I said, because I'm going to wash and block it anyway. I thought it's probably a moot point doing it right now. And I just wanted to say, I hope I've got a darker border, like it's a dark green blanket underneath. So I thought it'd make it helpful to contrast with some of the stuff and make it more noticeable and seen. So in case you're wondering about the different background. But yeah, so talk about the yarn. So I made this in Nutiden, and I used the main colour was Vidunder, and this is my gauge swatch. I know it's tiny, but I had to get, I think it was a gauge of 14 or 15 on 4mm in garter, and I could not get that gauge on 4mm at all with the Nutiden single strand. So I ended up going up to 4.5mm for the whole shawl, and I used Nutiden in the shade Vidunder, single stranded at the start. So the first section, the lace section up here is, let me stand up, the lace section up here is made in Vidunder in single strand on 4.5mm. I'll give you a good look at the shawl here. This is the section at the edge. Still got to weave in certain parts. And this, for the most part, gave me no trouble, single-stranded. There were some bits where I had to hold it as double-stranded, but for the most part, it was fine. The problem I got when I got into the second bit and I added in the contrast colour, which in my case was Osynlig. I'll show you Osynlig here. So Osynlig is beautiful. It's very soft. It's one of the ones that are very soft in the actual plate as well. And it's probably a bit more delicate a colourway than Vidunder and other ones. Using this single-stranded at the start here, it broke a lot. It was breaking a lot. And towards maybe at the midway point, I started... because of the amount of times I was adding in second strand to make it strong and kept on felting it, I started to hold this double and then draft it just to make it slightly thinner. And at one point, the Vidunder also began to get quite thin, because Nutiden is never always for the most part, it can be consistent, and some colorways are, but Vidunder was one where the first section was fine. And then I did get some issues in the second section where I had to hold it double. So at one point, and I think it was maybe halfway into the garter section 2, I began to hold both the colorways, the Osynlig and Vidunder, double and just draft it so that it'd make it thinner. And that has made it that, well, to be honest, you can't tell meterage at that point. 100 gram plate is usually 500 meters approximate. So the meterage already is a rough estimate. And then when I was doing what I was doing, I think it was just really tough to kind of manage. I did weigh after every single section. So after this section, I weighed up, but it's in my private notes, but it doesn't really matter because I'll tell you the whole weight of the shawl in a minute. So up to here I weighed, then up to here I weighed both plates again, just to see how much of the two colours I'd been using. And then again, over here, I'll come on to this lace section, I used Osynlig 2-stranded, and it's beautiful. And I kind of now regret not using it maybe up here. I mean, this is a lovely, lovely fabric. It is slightly thinner, and this is slightly thicker. But I think with the lace, maybe opening it up will make it lighter slightly. But it's such a nice, beautiful fabric here. And then the scalloped bind off was double-stranded. I saw no point at that point to struggle with the single strand, especially on a bind off when it can be a bit finicky. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the meterage. So in total, for the main colour of Vidunder, this is the main colour, I used 144 grams. And I think that's partly because the first section here was single-stranded. And then I only started using it here, double-stranded. And because mostly Osynlig had been held double-stranded and drafted, I used 174 grams of this. So that is making this whole shawl, which is quite a significant, size. It's not the biggest shawl, and I would prefer shawls to be bigger. This whole shawl is coming up to just under 320 grams, roughly. I'm not the greatest at math, sorry. So it's very impressive, and it's a warm shawl as well. So that's the one thing I love about Nutiden, although it's difficult to get the meterage and maybe in terms of design elements, it's really a beautiful fabric, and obviously the yarn is lovely to work with because it's one of my favourite yarns period. Right, what else to say about the shawl? I think in the pattern itself, there's not much else to say. I'll go into the yarn in a bit, but there were mistakes that were caught and obviously modified by the designer, and I think the layout of her pattern, because this pattern was quite busy, the layout was, I think, as simple as someone like with the pattern like the charts and everything and the different sections could make it. So she did a really good job in that. Everything, you had to read everything. I would say that obviously this is not something that you can just skim through. You really have to sit down and read it, but everything is laid out in a very straightforward and clear manner. So every section, as long as you read it and you know what you're doing, how many stitch counts. I love the fact that she gives stitch counts, and that's another thing, because with the stitch counts here, because I was changing the repeats, the stitch count after the first section wasn't the same stitch count as in the pattern because I had done less repeats. And this stitch, but when I got to this point, I did, because I did more repeats here, the stitch count was exactly as it should have been before starting the section 3 of the lace. And that was important to me because I wasn't sure if I could do this section without having the exact stitch count, because look at these like lines. Maybe, I don't know, because if I had done one less repeat, it would have just gone down. I don't know, but for me, it was just comforting. I needed to have the exact stitch count here for myself, and that's why I chose to do as many repeats as I did to get that. So in terms of size, I think it should be the same. But I suppose garter makes the fabric shorter, doesn't it? It's got less, the row gauge is always smaller on garter. So I don't know. But yeah, in terms of that, the stitch counts were like exactly towards what they should be in the pattern. So it's always helpful to have stitch counts in the pattern. And what else? Yeah, I think it was clear they were both charts and there was written work. There was written rows, and the written rows for me in lace are probably a wee bit more, especially at the start, helpful and needed. I think once I get the hang of it, I could probably go with the charts, and I did do that because I remember when I was making my Sometime Alone shawl, I initially started off with written rows, and then I went on to working solely from the charts once I had got the hang of it. But it's great to have that option there. And yeah, there's nothing much else I can say apart from the fact that it's a very clearly rewritten pattern and highly recommended. I don't know personally if it's suitable for a beginner. I don't know. I think it depends on the beginner, isn't it? It's like if you're quite open, if you've got the time to dedicate, to the hobby, if you've got new kind of techniques that you're willing to put the time into, then I suppose it's doable. I think this section is probably the easiest to do, but yeah, highly recommend. And I do love Tania Barley's patterns. I think they've got a very whimsical, rustic look to them, and yeah, very pretty. Okay, I want to talk about this shade of Nutiden Vidunder. I think it was gorgeous. When I bought it, I always admire the shade in the plate, but when I was working with it, I really enjoyed working with it, and I can get more of the nuances because as obviously the unspun yarn comes off, you can see more and more of the variations of colours inside. And I hope this is not getting overexposed. The problem with this room is because it's so bright usually that on a good day it can actually become overexposed. But this is a teal blue that is dyed on top of a grey base. I believe it's a grey base, and it's dyed in such a way that the grey base shows in a lot of it, so it's not totally saturated into the base grey shade. And I just think it looks beautiful. I feel it's got this look of a storm, of stormy seas, because I've got another shade called Tilia, and it's a lot similar to this but very much darker. If you actually see that on the screen on the website and everything, you think these are almost the same shades, but they're not. That's a very deep dark shade, and this is that shade, maybe that colour 1 or 2 shades lighter. Vidunder is lighter than Tilia. and both of them have that kind of stormy look to them, but this has that grey shade that keeps on showing underneath. I think it's just stunning. And after working with this on the shawl, I had 700 grams. I have 700 grams of this shade, so I've used up about 144. So I've got roughly 600 because, you know, just under 600 grams. That could get me a garment that's cropped. So I'm looking for a pattern that I want to make with this shade. So I've been doing that for the past few days. I don't know why, but I've suddenly got this urge to have a garment in this colour. I'm thinking about White Mountains. If I can get the gauge, it's a 14 stitch gauge on that, so I'd have to use something probably like a 5.5 or a 6mm. But there's also, and in terms of meterage, I could get that. But there's also Tulip. I've not made the Tulip yet, by Melody Hoffman. That's a smaller gauge, that's 17 stitches. But I could slightly, like, you know, fudge the gauge and make it a wee bit bigger and use a 5mm. 5mm kind of gives me about a 16 stitch gauge, 16 to 15 stitch, depending on the colourway though, because I remember I made that drop in Vagabond, and on a 5mm that gave me an almost like 13 stitch gauge. I don't know what was, that colourway was really thick, you know. So yeah, we'll see. I'll probably have to make a swatch. Although I've not got much. I don't want to, like, I'll probably make a swatch and then, you know, unravel it. But yeah, so this is a gorgeous shade. And I've got Osynlig, I've got slightly less of. I think I've used 174. I had about 6. I've got just under 500 grams of this. So I might use this in another, like I might combine it with another shade, either in stripes or some kind of colour work. But it's a beautiful, beautiful shade. I got the Varv in this, in the Varv Lagom in this, and that's called Osynlig. And I have got 2 hanks of that to make a hat. So that's going to be in my wardrobe soon as well, I hope. But yeah, so this is my first, oh my god, it's been 24 minutes and this is like the first finished item. But I did want to give time to this item because it's just stunning. It's probably one of the most stunning, visually stunning things I have ever made and have in my wardrobe right now. So I'm looking forward to using it, to be honest. I mean, things for me, like visually, this is why I just prefer simple things, because for me, the number one thing is comfort. And this is going to be very comfortable. Right, so let me put this away. And let me get this one out. So what should I do? Okay, let me get this one out. So I have finished my Bregne by Fibre Tales. So this was something I was working on as a cast on 2 podcasts back. I think I showed it, and I obviously had to put it aside when I was working on the test knit. Then I came back to it, I think just after the test knit finished. Or did I? Oh no. So because a lot of the time during the test knit I had ill health, I was working on a lot of things that were quite simple and mindless. So that's the beanies and the socks and everything I showed last time was mostly in between, you know, the Inishmurray Shawl. And this was as well, because at that point I had joined in the round. So this was basically stockinette. So I did work a lot on this while working on Inishmurray Shawl, simply because I needed something to work on that wasn't, you know, I didn't need to concentrate on too much. This, what can I say about this pattern? It's not like the most detailed pattern, but it was enough at this stage in my journey. I think my knitting journey, it was enough for me to do, and everything was clear and written out as needed. This section here is where you actually start at the back, and you start with a provisional cast on here. And provisional cast on in the past would just make me put the pattern away. I just certainly put it away. I was like, no, I'm not doing that yet. And now I just ignore them, and I just I cast it on here. And what I do is, where you go back and, you know, use the provisional cast on area, I just pick up stitches. I'm not going to faff about, because I really just want to get on with the pattern. I know it will make the seam more seamless, and this is probably a wee bit rough here. I don't know if you can see. You can probably see more better on the inside that this is a picked up area. So you can see here, This area is all picked up here. But I don't care because it doesn't, you can't, honestly can't notice it. And I just wanted this pattern for a very long time. So I cast this on early summer actually. And I had been, this yarn, where is it? Let me see if I've got the Jarnvilja by Nutiden. It's such a stunning yarn. Sorry, it's a bit rustling. I showed this in my last podcast. It's a yarn that is one of the first ones I bought from Nutiden, and it was one of the ones I really thought about, like, what should I do with it? I want something special. And I'd only bought 300 grams of this. And because of that, I mean, I could have made a shawl. I could have made a lot of like accessories, but I just wanted a garment. I wanted something that's going to be a garment on my body, something that I'm going to be using for a very long time. And I bought a shade from Jamieson Smith in their 2-ply jumper weight called, oops, I just dropped a lot of things, called Dark Fawn. It's number 78 Dark Fawn. This was a 1 kilogram cone, and the shade of it in real life is just exactly spot on with the Jarnvilja. And a kind of idea brewed in my mind is that why didn't I hold one shade of this and one shade of this in order to give me a garment quantity of Jarnvilja? And when I made a swatch of it, I don't have that swatch now, I don't know where it is. The shade of Jarnvilja overwhelmed this shade of the 2-ply jumper weight. I mean, they're very similar. Like if you look at the garment and if you look at the Jarnvilja shade, you can see this garment is made from this, you know, from this yarn, because one of my biggest fears of holding another yarn with knitted in the colourway that I'm like in love with is that it will overwhelm the colour and hide it, and you know, kind of I won't become that yarn anymore because the other one's been added into it. And when I saw the swatch, I just felt like this is just Jarnvilja, but it's kind of thickened and enhanced and stronger because this is actually quite a thinner shade. So I decided to cast this on with these two yarns, and the pattern had a gauge of 17 stitches, and mine's was a lot more because I felt that, so the pattern asks you to do the herringbone stitch in 8mm, and my 8mm swatch was really dense, really dense. So I ended up going up to 10mm for the herringbone section, and I think this area, the stockinette area, is on 5mm in the pattern, or 4.5, I can't remember which one. And I made mine on 6 because that was the fabric I liked. I wasn't really going by a gauge at this point. So in a lot of ways, when I cast on, I made my own calculations with the stitches I cast on and everything. And then the idea itself of the pattern is what I took from the Bregne pattern from Fibre Tales, like just making this panel and bringing it over the shoulder, the decreases. So I had to like make my own calculations, how many like decreases for the shoulder, and so forth. And again, going by her instructions, but my own stitch count, and based on my gauge, I increased here when I needed to come into the stockinette area. So yeah, this, I usually need my circumference to be at least 150 centimeters. I think it's slightly more. Excuse me. I'll probably have the details down in the Ravelry page. I've not uploaded the photos yet. I need to do that. I bound off in a 2x2 rib, and then I did some stockinette, and then Jenny Stitchy bind off. I find that 2x2 rib in Nutiden is just, there's no rib function at all. It just stretches out completely, and it doesn't really give you any kind of cinching. So I don't know if I'll be doing 2x2 rib in Nutiden again. I'll probably be 2x1 or 1x1. I think that the 2x2, the 2-stitch purl, just, I don't know, it doesn't really give much. Yeah, you can just see this now. It's as like it's as flat as the stockinette area. What else on this? Oops, sorry. Again, 2x2. I did do a lot of decreases. So the arms I did not take on from the pattern at all, and that's because the pattern is written for cuff up arms. And the one thing I did find a bit frustrating about the pattern was it didn't still give you the stitch count of this area of the arm, because that was what I needed to pick up from obviously the edge of this shoulder here for the armhole. I needed to know this stitch count, and it would have been really helpful to me at that point in the pattern if she had mentioned that. But what the Bregne pattern does is that it gives you the stitch count to cast on here, and then the increases. But to be honest, at one point, like, I have a limit on how much maths I can do. And I wish the pattern would give that information. So how many stitches you end up with for that pattern. Because I was following a size, I think despite me being off gauge, I was following about 3 sizes or 2 sizes below what I would usually cast on. So yeah, I had no idea. So I had to just do my own stitch count. And I think I ended up picking up about 87. And then I decreased them just based on my own kind of desire of how I wanted the arm to look. I wanted it to be slightly baggy, but not too much fabric here. I did quite a lot of decreases before I started the cuff though. So you do get the cinched in look here. And yeah, this fabric is so nice. I've got to say, I'm so impressed with the combination of Nutiden, at least this colourway, and the Shetland 2-ply. I really see myself making a lot more garments using this combination, just to make the Nutiden a wee bit more long-lived. I mean, Nutiden is fine in terms of its longevity, but it is unspun, and if you're going to use a single-stranded, say like right now, I can't always buy the amount I want in a colorway that I really like. If I have more than like 2 or 3 colorways that I like in a shop update, I can't buy a garment quantity in each one of them because of the price and because of the £135 like postage limit and the custom charges and stuff like that. I have to make a few orders. The most orders I've ever made for Nutiden in one go is 3 orders of up to about £135. So that's a lot of money. So this makes the actual yarn go. I think the Nutiden itself is a very economical yarn. If you look at the plate and on its own, it's just the charges like the postage and then the potential custom charges if you're going to go over a certain limit. So, and also because of the fact that each shop update has a unique colour, so it's not as if you can wait until a wee while later and buy that colour now. You have to really go for it at that point. So yeah, I have a few colourways like this that I haven't managed to buy on a current garment quantity, and I'm really thinking about holding them with a similar shade of Shetland 2-ply, either the Jamiesons of Shetland Spindrift, Jamieson Smith 2-ply jumper weight. Also, I'm thinking JC Rennie Super Soft. That's a very thin yarn, and I think that'd be quite good. I don't want it to be quite the Jamieson Smith. I think is quite a thick, like it's very woolen. Thankfully, it didn't overwhelm the Nutiden, but I wouldn't go for such a heavier fingering. I'd go for a light fingering when I'm pairing it with Nutiden to get this type of fabric. So JC Rennie Holst would be a good one. Maybe even woolly knit. I don't know. That's quite light fingering, I think, to hold with those with those colorways of Nutiden that I've not got a garment quantity. I've only got 300 grams of. 300 grams for some people is probably like a garment quantity. For me, it's a shawl quantity. I need around about, at the very least, 500 to 600 grams. And even then, sometimes I'd have to hold that with the extra strand of mohair or some like lace weight and go up to about a 5 to 6 millimeter needle to give that a bigger gauge in order for me to get a garment in my size. So yeah, I'll show you the neckline. The neckline was inspired again by the Bregne pattern by picking up, doing stockinette. I did more stockinette than was advised, and then binding off, stretchy bind off, and that gives us a nice little roll here. It's strange because both the cuff and the hem are cast off in 2x2, and usually just to make it cohesive and bring it all together, the pattern mimics that on the collar, and this was one of those patterns that hasn't, but it works. I really do think it works. I think this fabric, the herringbone fabric, is stunning. It's absolutely stunning. I would love a cowl in this, something that's warm around my shoulders in other items. I'd have to kind of think about how I'd make that, but it would be so nice. So nice. I think I've got the meterage down in the what do you call it, Ravelry page, but I've still got almost about 50 grams of this left. So that's incredible that I got a garment out of just under 300 grams. Remember, the 300 bags are just slightly over 300, and I've got 50 grams left. So I just I got this whole garment out of 300 grams. Now this is a 1 kilogram cone. These are not the norm. It's usually a 500 gram cone from GNS in their 2-ply, but these were a few limited edition 1 kilogram cones that I think they had wound up in the mill for a company, and these ended up not getting sold. So I've still got 700 grams, including the cone. So including this bit, 700 grams on this. That's crazy. I could probably make a cowl from these two, you know. I could probably make a cowl just using these two. It's just quite tempting, but I'll see. I don't know if I'll use this in a colour work. Maybe. Okay, so I think that's all to say about this, except that I really, really love wearing it. It's a beautiful combination. The halo on this is amazing. Honestly, it looks like it's got my hair with it. But that's all from the Jarnvilja. I don't think that's from the Shetland. It's so cozy. It's so light. So light. It doesn't weigh much. I think, 300 grams, maybe about just under 500 grams. And it's just got so much warmth to it and lightness. It's fuzzing a bit though. I remember I wore it twice and I got these little balls just suddenly gathering together, and this is really bad. But I remember one time my sister gave me the baby to hold, and when I gave the baby back, he was covered in, like, my sister was picking up, what's this fuzz on him? And I was like, oh, sorry, I think that's my jumper. I had no idea. It's like, I think I'm gonna have to wash this a couple of times to get the fuzz, under control. But there's a lot of fuzz coming off of this. A lot of pulling. Oh god, you can see it here. Look, it's like this, and it comes off in these really light chunks as well. And again, I'm just saying it's because of the Nutiden Jarnvilja. It's quite a unique shade. I'm curious. I think it was old breeds that went into it, but it's just turned out to be a gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous fabric. So yeah, I'm really happy with this in my wardrobe. I do see myself making more of this pattern. The Bregne, and I think I have I've been following. So okay, a bit of a tangent. I tend to stick with my usual podcasts because I find there's a certain comfort in knitting podcasts, and I like to see things that I'm familiar with. And when I started my knitting journey, I used to watch these people, so I actually go back and rewatch them, even though some of them are not even posting anymore, like the Gentle Knitter, Dunkel Grun, Ancestral Craft, and quite a few people who at the start, I really was inspired by. So any new podcasts that are coming out, especially if they don't use the fibres I use, if they don't use Nutiden or Lettlopi, if they don't use Istex, Shetland, then I try not to go, because it's a wee bit overwhelming as well. I think there's a lot of podcasts at the moment out there, which is great because obviously everyone has a niche and everyone has a particular style that they like to follow and watch. But for me, I tend to stick with those people, like, the old people that I like to the comfort watches, people like Kat Weaver. I think I'm going through hers, and Ellie from Skein Units as well. There's quite a few, but new podcasts, there's very few in between that I start watching, but there has been a few, and one of them was one called A Gentle Knitter. No, that's the one that, oh no, what's it called? A Gentle Adornment. A Gentle Adornment. That's such a lovely name as well when you think about it. A Gentle Adornment, and it's Rachel, and I believe she is in Arizona in America, and she loves horses, and she's on Patreon as well. So I was really inspired because when I saw her first podcast, it was all full of Nutiden and Lettlopi and all the things I love. I love looking at these yarns. I love looking at the finished garments of these yarns. I love thinking about the patterns and the options and the potential in these podcasts of these yarns. So when I found her, I was instantly subscribed, and she was quite. And she also made a Bregne, actually. She also made a Bregne in Jarnvilja, but she just held the two strands of Jarnvilja together. So I was so chuffed when I saw that. I was like, oh, we're doing the same thing, at that point. And she had a lot of patterns by Fibre Tales, and she had a lot of patterns by the Wheelbarrow and things. So I was really inspired to make the Bregne again, because I saw that she had another one in Lettlopi. And that looked stunning as well. And I remember the Gentle Knitter had one in Lettlopi as well, an oatmeal heather that I always thought, okay, I need to make that as well. So this is a pattern that I definitely will be coming back to. And while we're on the subject of new podcasts I'm watching, I watched this podcast. I think it's called Inquisitive Knits, and it's a lady called McKenna, and who lives in Germany. And her yarns aren't the usual yarns, because I think she uses a lot of local German-based yarns, and they're not my usual yarns I'd go for. But I really like the way, I like her style, I like her personality, and I like the way the pattern she chooses. And I remember she was knitting something called the Zigzag, which was just stunning. I thought that was so cute. And she was knitting, I think the Ron Weasley, Mrs. Weasley sweater. And I think I really want to knit that as well, possibly in Flottalopi. But yeah, this pattern is definitely something I want to make more of in my wardrobe. It's very, very practical. It looks great over dresses and skirts. And yeah, I easily could have made it longer with what I had, but it was fine as much as I needed. I made as much as I needed in terms of what looks good over, dresses and so forth. Right. My next finished object. Oh, let me grab it. Someone fell down. So I just knitted a quick pair of slippers. Hold on, let me find that. Okay, I can't find the other one. Right, I am trying to. No, I can't find the black yarn, but I had my niece over. Okay, so let me explain what this is. I had my niece over, and I was on Instagram, and she was on Instagram with me, and we happened to come across something called the sailor slippers, which I think most people in the knitting world have heard about, because I think there was a clip that went viral or something, and it was very, very popular, and it's been on the Ravelry Hot Right Now pages for a long time, like #1. And she really liked them. Now, I wasn't interested at all in the pattern, because it's just a pair of slippers. I've been making socks and slippers for a very long time. I've been making felted socks and slippers. Most of them are felted by now. So I always know that I kind of make my socks and slipper socks, I call them. I wouldn't call them slippers. A wee bit bigger, because I know they're going to fell down. And I actually do tend to do that with a lot of garments, like my hats and my mittens and so forth as well. But she really liked the look of them. I think it was the stripes, and it kind of caught her attention. So she asked if I could make her a pair. So I thought, yeah, I'll do that. And I just thought about how to construct it, because I wasn't going to buy I think the pattern's would be expensive, to be honest. So I wasn't going to buy the pattern when I thought I could wing this, I could make this. So I had this wool in the black shade. So this is a black shade at the tip and everything. And I had this shade, which is the beige. I'll put the numbers down in the Ravelry, in my Ravelry link. Oh no, sugar, I don't have this up in Ravelry. I made this in about 2 days. I'll put it down in the description box. Because I don't think I'm going to make a page of this. I've got so many socks up there. This is basically a toe-up socks. Again, with everything like my hats, it's always like toe-up. And actually the toe started here. Okay, so I'll show you how I did this. The toe started here. I did the Judy's Magic Cast On, 6 stitches, and then I increased to sugar dumplings. How many? It wasn't a lot. I think I increased to about 32. So 16 on each needle. I used DPNs. And then I started knitting. I did 2 rows more of the black shade before I went into the stripe. So I used the beige. And I did 2 rows of the beige. So it's on, so this is like the beige. And then what I did was I brought like a scrap yarn, and I did not knit it all in like the way you do an afterthought heel. I actually got a needle and threaded it through, and then I cast more on. Here onto my DPN needle, and I started just knitting again down the foot up until the toe, and then I just made decreases, knit 2 togethers, and slip knits in order to decrease the toe, and then the Kitchener stitch to shut close. And then I went back, and then with the beige yarn, because I'd only done 2 rows of the beige, I picked up again. So I picked up it here because I had to cast on. This is where I cast on. So you can see it's not the tidiest. I had to pick up here. But this was already on the needle, so this is quite smooth. So I just picked this up and I did 2 more rows, and then I went into the black, and then I did 4 rows of the black stripe, and then I did I-cord cast off with using a 3-cord I-cord cast off. And that's basically it. And my niece is 9. I can't believe she's going to be 10 next month in a couple of weeks. Oh God, they grow up so quick. She's kind of like my baby. She comes over on the, every weekend or so to stay the night with me. And I really value that time with her. So she's one of the people in the world where I just cannot say no to, So when she asks for something, and she doesn't, because she's such an amazing child. Like, she's just such a sensible, wise beyond her years child, but when she does ask, then I just give her it. So and plus these took literally 2 days to make, and I will felt these down because obviously as a 9-year-old, her foot size is a lot smaller than this. This is but I'll probably felt these in a wash twice, and then get her to try them on. But yeah, these were just made, and this is Hjertegarn Natur wool. This is comparable to drop snow. It's 100 grams for 100 meters. It's really soft. So you could probably use these for the sail slippers as well. I bought a few of this to make a black and white striped raglan, but my heart's not too into it. So I don't mind dipping into this garment quantity. I have, I think, about 8 of the black and 6 of the beige to make that raglan. I probably still could make it. I barely touched. I've still got more than 75 grams of this beige, and I have about 55 grams of the black. So that's, that's a lot. That's all it took. But that was my 3rd finished object. I have forgotten one of my finished objects. Let me see if there's the actual number for the beige. Oh, there it is. That's a beige colour. 1990. This one. And the black, I think it's only black on the website. It's the pure black. They've got a few dark shades, but yeah. They're so cute. They'll be very warm as well. I've forgotten one object. I'll bring that next time when I'm doing my cast-ons, like my whips. But this is my last object. This is like a huge, humongous, chunky knit. Let me get this. I have to stand up here. And is that okay? Oh, this feels so nice. I've got a little ribbon. Let's ignore that. I didn't really need it in this one. I put it in most of my jumpers just to see what the back is, but it's very obvious what the back is. Oh, right, let me sit down. Okay, so you'll be wondering what on earth is this. I cast this on in between my last, let me get the yarn out here, my last podcast. I finished this in 5 days. Now, if you watch my podcast, you know I am a plus size person. I usually minimum have my bust circumference as 150 centimeters. That gives me 20 centimeters positive ease. It takes me a long time to knit. I'm not the fastest knitter. It takes me a long time to knit a garment. So for me, knitting a garment in 5 days, I got this down in the Ravelry pages, is unheard of. It just blew my mind. And this is a proper garment. And it's kind of, I would say it's quite a niche garment. I think somebody's outside. Hold on. Sorry, I had to pause there. For a second, I thought there was somebody outside. So I get really nervous. I started whispering now. So bad. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, it's just the quickness of this garment. It's quite, it's a garment that's got particularly really chunky stitches. So I think one of them's fine. I don't think I'd be making more, although I'm very tempted to, just to get some yarn out of my collection, because this is great for stash busting. Honestly, it's so good. I used Nutiden. So, okay, well, let me talk about the pattern first. So this pattern, although I've made quite a few modifications to it, the base of this pattern is the Fireside by Minimi Knit Designs, I think. Minimi Knit Designs. I have already made one pattern from her called the CP01 Best. I showed that, I think it was my last podcast, for my niece. And I have quite a few of her patterns in my library. So and I'm really enjoying the way they turn out, so I'm quite tempted to, make more. What else do I have hers? I've got the brioche vest, and I have the instant gratification 1 and 2, and I have quite a few actually. I've got a few other ones, but yeah. So this is the Fireside. I think this was a new. She was doing an advent in December, and I initially thought this was part of the advent. So I bought this quite quickly because the advent lasts for 24 hours for each pattern. But I think this was actually a pattern release, and it's basically and another thing as well. I thought this was a circular yoke, but it's actually a raglan, top down raglan, and it's extremely like chunky gauge. The gauge is 6.5 millimeter, 6.5 stitches on 12 millimeter needles. So that's a very chunky gauge. That's probably the chunkiest garment I've got, like in terms of pattern in my library. And although I do like my chunkier gauge, I like knitting on 6 millimeters, 7 millimeters. I don't particularly go for anything higher than that, not much anyway. So this was a bit of a change for me, but I was very curious. So I decided to get some yarn out of my yarn collection, and I chose 2 Nutiden shades. This is Nutiden Karl, and this is Nutiden Orakel. Now these are both beautiful shades. They're gorgeous, but they're not like things that I'm really kind of want to, I don't know, like keep for something extra special. Like this shade, to me is like I want to something really, really amazing with this. And also because, I mean, these are beautiful shades, but I have quite a lot of Nutiden, and I really wanted to start using it up in bigger quantities. And I thought it'd be good to get it built. I thought it'd be good to use it in this. Also, I had 300 grams of this and 500 grams of the Karl. And I thought I would use 2 strands of Karl and 2 strands of Orakel until the Orakel had run out. So I would have used 300 grams of the Orakel and 300 grams of the Karl. So you almost used up the Orakel. I've got this much left. I needed a wee bit held back because I wanted to make these cords. I wanted to make the bind offs and the collar in the darker shade of the Orakel. And I've got two plates of this left, Karl, which is around about what I expected to have left. In total, it's about 250 grams because I have some of this in the Lucky Charms as well. And this shade here, this kind of apricot shade here, is actually the shade Sticka. I'll show you here. I've got it. This is just a Karl plate that's almost run out, and I just stuck this in. This is the shade Sticka, and I'm pretty sure that Karl has Sticka kind of heathered into it in the production of it, as well as this light blue. This is an interesting shade because compared to Karl, which is actually a very thin knitted in colourway, Sticka is chunky. It's a chunky monkey. It's very, very solid and stable with one strand. So this area became quite nice and thick, and I got it on the hem as well. So I did a bit of marling because if you're holding 4 strands together, then it's it kind of this pattern gives itself to a lot of interesting marls. I wish I'd thought about it a wee bit more. If I'd done it again, I would have done two strands of Orakel for a wee bit at least, and then added in the Karl, and then continued on with the Karl and Orakel. But from the start, I cast on with the Karl and the Orakel. You cast on 10 millimeters just to give over here, this area, just to give the neckline a bit of stability, and then you switch it up to the 12 millimeters. You knit it flat, and then you join in the round, and you continue on with the raglan. And towards the very end, I replaced 1 strand of Orakel, a little darker shade, with 1 strand of Sticka. And then, as you can see here a wee bit better, I at one point took the Orakel away, and then I had the Sticka and the Karl on its own, which I kind of regret. So I went back and added in just like duplicate stitches, a wee bit more Orakel, because I wanted some of that Orakel just coming down. You can see in the hem, I just took bits of like strands of the Orakel and knitted them in here. Oh my god, it's getting dark, isn't it? I hope you can still see. And then I did a normal bind off. You're supposed to go up to 15 millimeters for the bind off, but I just stuck with the 12 millimeter and bound off. You do some decreases before you get to the hem, and I don't think they're needed. So next time I'm not going to do it. It's just one or two sets of decreases, and I think I'd prefer not to do them in the chunky gauge. I don't want this to cinch in at the bottom. And yeah, it's just a very, very good kind of pattern to get rid of a lot of yarn quickly. I mean, 5 days. You know, I'll write down at the bottom what size I knit, but this has given me, I was on gauge by the way, for 6.5 stitches, and I got 154, so that was size 5. Minimi Knit Designs is very impressive with her size range, because usually I'm at the top end of the size I pick. I'm usually at the biggest or the second biggest size, and with her size range I'm in the middle. Like I usually kind of like just, you know, above the middle, so that's quite impressive in terms of how, like, you know, how many sizes that she manages to put out. And it's not easy, I'd imagine. So the Fireside does not have the I-cord and the collar, and they're one of the reasons why I added the collar in, and it's not the best collar, I understand. I'm probably going to go back and fix it, but it's because this neckline was very wide for me, despite me using the smaller needles and using, I don't know, like I think I even went down one size before going up a size, like the cast on, but it was pulling apart too much. You can see here it was pulling apart too much, and it was coming down my shoulder, and I wanted to cinch it in, so I decided to add in a collar, and the pickup rate I did was slightly less, so I would do every 2 out of 3 roughly, and I think I shouldn't have decreased that much in terms of my pickup. My reasoning was I wanted to cinch it in, but the collar went downwards, and because there was less fabric, it keeps on riding up. So what I did was I just like knitted it down here. I think I'm going to knit it down here as well. Oh, by the way, I did the pick up on the outside so you can see the cast on. I really like that look. Usually you would do it so that this, like, you can't see it's seamless, but I liked it this way. What else was it? Yeah, I'm going to probably knit it down more. I have steam blocked this with an iron. It's not been washed and blocked yet, so we'll see how that goes. And I've also knitted, sewn it down here and sewn it down here. Then I added the I-cords in order for me to be able to cinch it in here, and that has given me a lot of stability around the shoulder. So when I wear it now, oops, sorry, I just sat down. I mean, this neck mount is great because I can use both my hands, but I understand it's probably shaky sometimes, so I do apologise for that. And yeah, so that's the reason why I made those modifications. Other than that, I don't think I made any modifications, but next time I would, when making this, use a slip stitch edge here, because that was just, you know, it's knitted, and then it kind of rolls in slightly, and I wouldn't make any decreases in the body, and I didn't make any decreases on the arms, except when I came to the cuff, at which point I made 4 decreases. What else about this? Okay, so holding Nutiden 4-stranded was really nice, actually. I really enjoyed working with Nutiden. It gave me no issues in terms of breakage at any point. Even Nutiden 2 doesn't, you know, I work with it quite comfortably. But this was almost like a robust yarn at 4 strands. Initially, I thought 4 strands wouldn't be enough for 12 millimeters. I thought it would be too gapey. I thought the fabric would be too sheer. And I was ready, and I had, you know, on the side drops brushed alpaca, sorry, in the shade steel blue. And my initial intention was to hold that, 1 strand of that with 2 strands of Karl and then 2 strands of Orakel, and it'll be like a nice little marl. But when I did the actual gauge swatch with just the 2 strands of Karl and 2 strands of Orakel, I got gauge on 12 millimeter, and the fabric wasn't bad. Like, if you look at the fabric, I'll try not to, because this is like a Sticka up here. This is the Karl. It's absolutely fine. It was slightly gapey, but then I steam blocked it, and, you know, I think it's fine. It probably will stretch out a bit. I don't think I'd need to wear anything underneath this, you know, for modesty reasons. And that's really important to me for a garment that I would wear sometimes over a skirt or something. Like I don't want anything to like peep through. So, and because I love the feel of Nutiden, I thought if I don't need to use that extra strand and, you know, have a pure Nutiden fabric instead, then I'll go for the pure Nutiden fabric. So I put the drops alpaca aside and just worked on this. I'm so glad I did, because having this in pure Nutiden is so light, so airy. I mean, drops alpaca, brushed alpaca is very light and airy as well. But it's just the feel of this, it just feels so cozy. Honestly, it's like some physical person is giving you a hug. It's because it's kind of, the fabric is thick but light. You know, I think this is just over 500 grams for such a chunky, no, actually, it's a lot more than that. I think it's about 600, because I remember updating my Ravelry. It's about 650 grams, because I used about 50 grams of the Sticka. I still got quite a bit of the Sticka left. And I've got, this is, it's like a Lucky Charm. I had the Sticka on the outside and the carton inside. Like, I still got quite a lot of it balled up as well. So this was what it was like balled up. I think it's about 640 to 650 grams I used. And if I was using this in like plied yarn, like in spun yarn, I think it would have gone up to about a kg. And she gives really good options on how many yarns and what weights to hold together in order to get the gauge. So for DK weight, if you hold together 4 DK weight strands, you would probably get 6.5 millimeters on a 6.5 stitches on 12 millimeter needle. And I have a lot of DK in Woolly Knit that I have plans for, but I just know I have plans for every single yarn I buy. I have a lot of yarn. I don't like talking about it too much. I know a lot of people do the stash busting thing and they talk about how much they got. I think for my own peace of mind, I'm not trying to like be like, you know, have like an ostrich put my head in the sand about it. But at the same time, I feel like this is just my way of dealing with it. I'm trying not to buy too much now. I have slowed down a lot. I've not completely stopped. I think if I completely stop, or if I tell myself to stop, like have one of those no ban years, then that's just going to completely, I'll feel it at 100%, and just, this makes me feel more bad about myself. So I've just told myself to stop. I've told myself that if you do want to buy something, because I did buy something, I remember on the Black Friday sale, I think by Laxton's had 50% off. So I bought that yarn, but then that yarn was something that I don't think full price for a garment I would ever be able to buy. But at 50% off, that was an amazing like reduction. And it's also a very rustic yarn. It's a yarn that I'd want in my, and I had plans for it. So I'll talk about that later. But I made plans for it. So every single time I buy a yarn, I make plans for it. But however, how many plans do I have? I've only got a certain lifespan. You know, so a lot of these plans are probably never going to come to fruition. So I've got to focus on what I need in my wardrobe. I need jumpers, I need cardigans, I need hoods, I need more headscarves, I need more headbands, I need more mittens, always need socks. I probably could do with a whole drawer full of socks, because I go through them a lot and I knit them a lot. Excuse me. Excuse me. So yeah, I need to be practical. So I've got these lovely like colour work and cables and textured jumper patterns I've bought, but I've got to be practical. And as long as I get a good basic wardrobe, like of the basics, like things like raglans and, you know, drop shoulder jumpers and cardigans, and I've got time, then I can concentrate on that. But at the same time, I've got so much yarn that I do have a storage issue. A lot of things get lost, or yeah, a lot of things get lost. I'll talk about that in my cast on. I've actually found something I lost for a whole year. So if I can get some yarn out, I think that would be prudent. It'd probably be the best thing for me. So having like, if I can make another one of these in 5 days with the DK weight Woolly Knit yarns, that'd be amazing. You know, I've got a lot of Holst. I've got a lot of JC Rennie. To be honest, I love the JC Rennie fabrics, you know, that they've made. I really want to have some in DK weight, that because Heltable, that's a DK weight. DK weight garments. It's just a stunning yarn. So I probably won't use that too much, and I don't know if I'd use another Nutiden. Maybe. I've got some Lettlopi. I had plans for that. Again, I don't know if I'm going to get around to it, so I might use that up as well. But yeah, I really recommend this pattern for if you're really considering stash busting a lot of yarn. like if you have a lot of yarn and you want to stash bust it, then this pattern is great, honestly. And if you don't mind the chunky look, and I don't mind it, I thought it would be something like a gimmick, and I wouldn't want to have more than one. But I think I wouldn't mind having quite a few of them. I think it depends though. I think the Nutiden is very unique and it makes it a very nice and light garment. If the garments are far too heavy and bulky, then maybe I'll probably have one more and that'll be fine for me. Right, I think I'm going to stop there. It is getting very dark. I might not look it in the camera, but in real life it is. And I have one more finished item that I forgot in my room. And I forgot that because I'm using it all the time. And I will talk about that when next I am able to film. And I'll talk about the rest of my the things I'm working on. Okay, see you soon. Hello, and I'm back again. It's the very next day, and I'm so glad because I really don't want to make it like my last podcast where there was a very large stretch of time. And and today was such a nice day. Well, today is a very nice day. I managed to get this room quite early, and there's nobody at home, and it's a really, really nice sunny winter day, which is one of the best days, I think, because I love winter sun. I love that really crisp, bright, clear, not too hot sun. I'm not. I'm a person that is not too good with too much heat. I tend to struggle in the summer, to be honest. But so I'm back again. I had one more finished item which I had forgotten in my room, and then I will go on to things that I'm working on right now. I just want to let you know that my previous podcast, like if I manage to get all this filmed, I might like release this very close to my previous podcast, which I released last night. Today is the 30th of December, and that's because I decided not to show my cast-ons. I decided not to show my works in progress because it had been almost 3 weeks that I managed to film the last segment, and to be honest, most of my cast-ons had become the finished objects that I just showed yesterday. So yeah, I feel like these two kind of podcasts are going to be almost like part one, part two type thing, a wee bit. But yeah, anyway, because I never really upload podcasts so close together. But anyway, let me just get on with it. This is my last finished object, and this is, oops, I'm showing you what I've got left. It's my Buca hat. This is a pattern by Ailbiona McLochlainn that I've modified to make it a lot bigger for myself. So it's wider. I tend to wear hats on top of my headbands, which are already quite thick because I mostly use Aran to chunky weight to make them on 5mm, roughly. And they are thick in width as well on my head. I have them on constantly. I sometimes have my hair up. My hair is going long again. I'm thinking of cutting it. I don't know. And because of that, the hats, and I have generally have a bigger head than most women, adult women. So because of that, I have modified this hat and I cast on a lot more stitches. It's casted bottom up, and you do the decreases for the bucket, the brim, and then you go up and you make the height of it, and then you do the decreases for the crown. And I have worn this so much. I knew this was going to be something that would be like a staple in my wardrobe, and honestly, it's so warm, it's so nice. The actual fabric on the inside has, to some extent, sometimes I can't even notice. You can notice, but if I'm in a rush, I tend to put this on inside out. I don't notice it too quickly when because I feel like the fabric has felted it a lot from wear. This is the seaming that you do at the end. So the seaming goes on the inside. The seaming on the outside is fairly it's non-noticeable. I made a bucket hat with normal yarn around about this gauge, like a super chunky gauge, and the seaming you can really tell if it's unstuck in it. Actually, that was in garter, and you can still tell, but because of the nature of this fabric, it's the Buca style. It's a Varv, I should say. It's a Varv from Karl Orakel, and because of that, the seam you can't really tell too much. This was Sunniva. This colourway is called Sunniva. It is Hofta's sister in the Nutiden yarn. And I got the Lagom weight, which is 60 meters to 100 grams, so that's super chunky. I used 8mm. I think I could have gone down to 7 and had a lot more denser fabric, but it's still really dense. It's still quite dense. I'm curious as to how it's going to react to being washed, because at one point I'm going to have to wash it. It's on my head all the time, and I'm using it a lot. So we'll see. I don't think I need another one of these. It's a very distinct look. Everyone loves this hat. I think a lot of people have hinted that they want it, but I'm like, no. And we'll see. I'll see if I can get my hands on more Varv. I don't know, because I have to, if I'm going to make an order from McLochlainn, I have to choose between the Varv and the Nutiden, and I can't not choose the Nutiden sometimes. I just made an order for Nordan's Loose, the December colourway. It's usually December yarn is usually for patrons only, but this time that shop was open to the public, and I could see that one just totally sold out within minutes. And I'm so glad I got a garment quantity of that. I'm thinking it's going to be my last purchase for a while. I'll probably still be a patron, but I'm trying not to purchase more. I'm trying to use it up. So I don't think I'll be purchasing more Varv anyway. I've got the Sunniva. No, this is Sunniva. Sorry, which one am I talking about? Let me see. This is the Osynlig, which is the colourway Osynlig. And I said, I think it was last time on my last podcast, I said that I wanted to make the Onca hat, which is like the aviator type, shepherd type ear flap hat, again from Ailbiona McLochlainn. And I am definitely going to be casting this on soon. I'm just trying not to cast on every single time I cast off, because I have cast off quite a few items in the past 2 weeks. I'm wearing this Fireside. It's just so comfy, so cozy and light. Surprisingly not overtly warm, which is probably because of the Nutiden. But okay, I'm getting off on a tangent. I have cast off quite a few things. So in the past 2-3 weeks, I've cast on maybe about 4 things, 4 major garments. It's my Fireside, my Bregne, my the raglan I was making for my niece. That was probably a wee bit more than 4 weeks ago. And there was something else. What did I do? Yeah, the Inishmurray Shawl. So there's been quite a few cast offs, and I tend to, every time I cast off, cast on something, almost like a reward thing, and I'm trying not to do that. And if I do feel the urge to, I'm trying to just cast on a small item like socks. So this is going to be something that I cast on soon, the Onca hat. Because I really want an aviator style hat in my wardrobe. I think I will probably live in it. And if I find that hat to be the kind of thing, the go-to thing for me, then maybe I'll make more. We'll see. But right now, the ear flap hat, the aviator style, is hopefully my next cast on after I've cast off a few more items. Right, so this is, again, Varv Lagom, Osynlig colourway, and this is my Buca hat. Oh, by the way, I used, so in the pattern it says to use 200 grams of the Lagom, and I ended up using less than 1.5, and I made a bigger item than the biggest size in the pattern. So this weighs 127 grams in total, and I have about 86 grams left. So I had to be a bit more than 200 grams in the 2 skeins, just because they were generously wound up. And that means I have 86 grams left. I'm wondering if this should be enough to give me that collar without me having to buy more, because I have Hofda's sister in a garment quantity, and I'd love to make something like a drop shoulder or a raglan with a Henley style collar, and then have this as the collar, similar to how I made a collar on the Fireside jumper. So 86 grams, it's not a lot of meterage, obviously, it's super chunky. But if I use the same principles of maybe going up a couple of needle sizes, casting on less stitches, maybe I can get away with it. We'll see. We'll see. Right, let me put this to the side. Okay, so I'll show you something that I am working on, which is probably my main item at the moment. And this item, you'll be glad to know, is my Felix Jumper. Felix Jumper. Now, for those of you who have watched me consistently over the years, I know that my previous episodes have been privated and you can't watch them now. Sorry, it's just, I feel like I don't want to be somebody who's online permanently. I love doing these podcasts, love having a quick chat and a quick interaction, but I don't want to have my stuff up there forever. I really don't. Not with the way the world's going, not with the way AI is going. And so this is for my privacy. So I had them up for a while. I've had these videos up for about a year or so. They were up for about 2 years. So what I yeah, so they're privated now. But if you were watching me from before, you know that last year I was working on a Felix jumper and a Felix cardigan. Now, both of those are long-term whips. The Felix jumper I was working on in Nutiden Live. I was holding that with, I think it was Sheepsoft, and I don't know about that now. So I might have a different intention for Live. Nutiden Live. Live is one of my favourite colourways. It's actually very similar to Carol, but it's so different. I don't particularly like Carol too much. I love Live. Let's see. so, um, so I have to decide about what I want to do with that. And this one was my black Felix, and I'm making it in. It's so difficult to see. This is when the darker background's not working to to its best kind of potential. Oh my goodness, you can see all the hairs on this. Right, so and I lost the yarn. So this is Lana Gatto Class. I had like 10 balls of this. It was very difficult to get a hold of this because Knit, the online website, it's a shop called Knit, they were the only people in the UK that I know of had it, and I did look for it for a while, and they had it on clearance. So when the black colour came, I bought some and then I loved it. I actually bought this initially in the colour Sage, and it was nice, but then I realised how special this yarn is. It's a DK weight, but almost chunky to add and gauge. Let me see if there's any. Oh, I have shown this before. It is 80%. Let me see this. 80% superfine merino, extra fine merino, and 20% angora. The meterage, it doesn't tell you the meterage. It tells you on the other side. Let me just get this. I think I have one that's got. Come on, is there a scale? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, okay. So this is 50 grams equals 125 meters, which is 136 yards. And its recommended needle size is 6 to 6.5 millimeters. And that's why I'm saying this is a very special yarn, because it's got, without it being blown yarn like Drops Air or, you know, something like Camaros, Snifnog, it's got a loftiness and bounce to it that belies the fact that, you know, it's not blown. It's just a simple yarn. I think it's something to do with it being maybe a woolen spun merino and angora. And I'm using it on, I'll show you. I'm using it on 6 millimeters. I didn't go up to 6.5 because I do want some kind of density. And look at the fabric. It's such a beautifully dense fabric. There's nothing about that suggests that it's a very gapey or sheer gauge. And 50 grams into a meter, so that makes it very economical. It makes it that you can, you know, make a garment very quickly on iron weight. And it's such a damn shame, honestly, this is no longer available. Honestly, if I could, I think I did get some of the last colourways on the Knit website, but if I could get more, I would. Yeah, it's such a shame that I didn't get all of them. Yeah, and I can't find this anywhere now in the UK, even in Europe, European sites. I've tried and it's a bit difficult. I think it might be some Italian sites that are not showing up on my Google search that might have them. It says Italian brand, Lana Gatto, so you might get this still in Italy, but this is an amazing, amazing yarn. It's probably one of my top 5 yarns, and it's not available. So this is the Felix jumper, and what happened was for a whole year, this yarn, I had lost it. And this is what I'm saying, I've got so much yarn at the moment that I store it away safely. I try to organise it, and then I organise it so well that I don't know where I've put half the yarn, and I couldn't work on it because of that. So I did look for it at that time last year, and I just thought I had to move on to other things because I couldn't find where the yarn was. Then I did a thorough cleanse of my room, of all my wardrobes and all my storage spaces in October, and that was almost took me a week. Almost, it was a very big feat. And at that point, I found it in between, like a small bag in between, like some Lettlopi I had. And then when I found it in October, I actually forgot where I had put my the work in progress. So this was like a whole issue, because the last time I worked on this was November 2024. And now I've just got it back and started working towards the end of November 2024 on this. This is my current whip, and it's my main whip. I really want to get this finished. because I think this would be amazing as a garment. It's a Felix, it's a raglan, top-down raglan that has these eyelets. Now, when I got this back, I hadn't split for sleeves yet, and I was on the eyelets, but because I hadn't worked on this for a whole year, I made the decision of just eschewing, like, leaving out the eyelets now, and going for just a simple raglan for the remaining increases I needed to do for my size, because you do have to, it's like these are not mindless. You do have to be aware of them, and I didn't want to make a mistake. I had already made a mistake, I remember last time. I can't remember where it is, and that was when I was working on it, concentrating on it. So I thought, now it doesn't matter. I've got most of, like, the pattern. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of eyelets, so that should be enough. But for my size, I know they're more because the eyelets continue until you split for the sleeves. Apart from that, there's no other modification I've made. This suggested needle size is 6mm, and that's what I've done. I've done 5mm ribbing at the top. It's a quite small ribbing. I might mimic that at the bottom. And I have done one sleeve now. Since I got it, I did one sleeve. That's ribbing. And I am on the other sleeve. I'm going to do both sleeves, and roughly one sleeve takes up 1 ball of yarn, which is very good to know. Gives me a rough idea of where I should go up to. But yeah, once I've done that, I am going to use up all of the rest of the balls, and I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 balls. Hold on, let me just double check how many balls I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. So I'll have 5 balls for the rest of the body, which I think will give me, I think that will give me a good size. I roughly like my my length to be, if it's up to 70 centimeters, that's good. I know that's really long for some people, but remember, I've got quite a long torso. So 67 centimeters is what the Fireside that I'm wearing is, and that's a really nice length. So around about 65, underneath 60, like 50 centimeters approximately, is what I would consider cropped for me. And I don't want it to be cropped. I want it to be quite, this is something that I'd want to be wearing as a staple in my wardrobe, throwing on over things. It's got that kind of feeling to it, like almost like a t-shirt feeling to it. I can't describe how comfortable this is. It's got a halo in that almost rivals like mohair, and a softness that doesn't have any of that itch. So yeah, I'm hoping to make other garments with what I've got. I don't have 10 balls of those colourways though. I think I've got 6 of the sage, and I've got 7 of a silvery grey. I'm not too keen on that colour, but it's a yarn that I really like. I can maybe do something about the colour later on, maybe add in the mohair or something. Then I've got 3 balls of a clay-like colour. It's like it's called clay, and it's like a terracotta. Again, I'm not too keen on the colour. I might make that into some kind of scarf, a headscarf or a hood. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, this is my main current whip at the moment. So I mentioned that I wasn't casting on other things until I had finished this. I've got a few other things that are long-term whips. I've got my dad's vest that I'm working on. I have a few other things I've shown in the past. I've got a Nutiden thing cast on with drops, brushed alpaca. That I'm freestyling that. It's totally improvised, and I'm not sure. I think I will continue on with that. That's a nice garment. So all those things I've still got, so I'm not going to be casting on anything major too soon. Except maybe the ankle hat. Right, so the one thing I did cast on after finishing some of these garments was a sock. Now, I have to show this in a very strategic way. This is my hand spun. I wouldn't be showing it but I do want to show my hand spun. I showed this skein not the last podcast, the podcast before last. I think the one I made in August, because I was spinning a lot during the summer, and I haven't really spun much. I think I spun one skein after that I've not shown, but it's fine. I can show that in the future. This is a skein I spun specifically to cast on for a sock because it contained a fibre called, let me put these down. So I've got like one yarn coming from the middle for one sock, which I've cast on, and I've got another yarn coming from the outside on this side. So I have to be really careful that I don't tangle up. So, what was I saying? Yeah, so I made this skein specifically for sock yarn. And I never usually do that. Like sometimes the skeins can become socks, but it's just because that's what they've become. But I've never spun a skein specifically. Oh my god, that's alliteration for socks. But I got a hold of a fibre called Leicester Longwool. Yeah, I think it was called Leicester Longwool, and it was very, very rustic. It was very coarse. I think the what do you call that? The micro fine. Oh my god. Because I've not spun for so long, I've not even looked at like fibre sites. I've forgotten the jargon. The microfiber count, fine, no, the microfine something count that makes that you can tell how soft it is. This is like really high up there. This is about 40.45, the Leicester Longwool, and it had a very long staple. The staple was 30 centimeters up on this, and I was noticing that on my drum carder that as I was drumming, the whole fiber, I'd have to cut the fiber when I was taking it off because the fiber wrapped around the whole length of the drum. I knew I wasn't going to wear a garment against the skin with that. My feet are not overly sensitive, so, and I do like things that are quite, like I will wear things that are quite harsh on my feet, so it doesn't really matter with socks, but with a jumper or something, like even mittens or a hat, I don't think I would have worn that. So I knew automatically that I was going into something that I was going to create for socks. At the same time, I had a skein from World of Wool, which wasn't really, the Leicester Longwool was from Bingham Wool, and I had another skein of a blended fibre called Scorpio. This was from about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was a blend of extra soft merinos in the shade Raven, which is black, and Scarlet, which is red, and those two shades are stunning. You could probably see some of them. You can see some of the red here, but they were mixed with a shade of flax, linen flax, and that linen flax was white, and it was giving these white stripes against the red and black. If it was just that red and black, I think it would have been stunning, but I didn't like that linen kind of effect on it. I didn't mind if the shades were more similar to each other, but this was like a stark white against those dark shades, and I didn't want to spin that up to make into an item. So I decided to add that skein into here. At the same time, I had recarded some Shropshire. This is some of the earliest wool that I'd spun, and it was all thick and thin, and I wanted to reuse it in something, so I managed to like recard, like unspin and recard most of it, so that went into here as well. Then I had all these little scraps that I would get, you know, when I order Lettlopi. I think it's an Icelandic store. They bring it in these little, the plates are not, like if you buy Lettlopi from Wool Warehouse, every single plate is wrapped in plastic individually. But if you buy from an Icelandic store, they've got like naked plates all kind of piled up right against each other. And the middle of them usually are connected to each other. So sometimes when you're trying to disconnect, a big like fibre chunk comes out. And I don't like wasting that bit, even though it's technically like not usable. It's like a ball of yarn sometimes. Sometimes you can unwind it, but it's unspun, so most of the time it just becomes a mess. So I put that aside. I had a few shades in black and brown I added to this. And then I had a few like middle bits of Mancholopi that are kind of cut up, you know, towards the middle of the plate, and they're not really usable. I find that a lot in Mancholopi, so I have put them in as well. And just some fibre scraps that I know sometimes you get in packaging when you order some stuff from these sites, from fibre sites. I put all of that in together. So this was an amalgamation of a lot of things, with the main thing being the Leicester Longwool and that merino hank from World of Wool. Yeah. Sorry, that was a lot of talking. I need to rest now. So this is Aran weight. I did the meterage, and 100 grams equals 150 meters. So that's around about Aran weight going on to a light chunky, you know, it's heavy Aran weight. I have 150 grams of this, so I can put up to 75 grams into each sock. And this is what I love about Toe Up. So I will decide on the sock how much I put in once I, you know, get to the cuff bit. I don't tend to have such a overtly long sock, but I'm thinking of making it this time because I think I will have enough yardage to do that. These are quite short 4mm needles. They're 4mm. I initially cast them on 4.5 and I felt like I could go down denser. 4.5 was quite good. Actually, I'll confess something. The 4.5 I cast on is actually this sock, and I was going to frog it and I got lazy and I just started doing them on 4. So I increased the toe on the 4.5, and then from the actual body of the sock I've got it on 4. So that's probably not a good idea. I might come to regret that because it's a looser. But like it was still quite decent on 4.5. I shouldn't be so lazy. It was quite decent, but I felt like I could go denser. And if I can go denser without it hurting me too much, hurting my hands, then I will for socks. My socks need a lot of mending. So 4 is very nice. It's structured. Let me see if I can, that's me pulling it apart. So you can see there's no kind of, nothing showing through much. So yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so this is toe up, and I might do the short heel, or I might do afterthought. I don't know. I've been doing both lately. Like I've been doing a lot of afterthought. I've done the short roll, the integrated short roll heel, and these ones. I'll show you these ones as well. I've had these cast on for a bit. These are some Lettlopi scraps. They're not really scraps, but like single skeins I'd bought just to see the colour, if I liked them. These are nice length. You can see the difference. I think this is a 15 centimeter. This is 20. I always go for 20 centimeters, but these are some of the earliest needles I bought. I didn't, not knowing that, this is maybe a wee bit too short. Yeah, so, oh, hold on, this is like the cut. So I've done one of these already. I didn't cast these on at the same time. So you can see that this is the integrated short row heel, which is done at the same time as you're going up. And I might do these in the same manner, but I don't know. I think I might just do an afterthought heel. And yeah, both of them are fine. It's just when the fabric is really fuzzy and it's very difficult to see the stitch, I tend to go for the integrated short row heel, because that makes it easier for me to, like, because a fuzzy fabric can make it a wee bit difficult to pick up for me afterwards. I don't think this is too bad. I think in good daylight, like there is in this room, I should be able to pick up no problem with this. So I'm going to go for afterthought heel on these. But yeah, this is how it's knitting up. You can see bits of blue, bits of red. The blue was some scrap silk. I think it was silk, yeah, that I got in some of this packaging. But you can see that fuzz coming from the Leicester long wool. That black's definitely Lettlopi. That's also Lettlopi's Icelandic wool, so it's also got a very long staple. So it's pretty cool. I do like the way they're coming out, but they definitely look like handmade socks. So I'll show you these a wee bit. So this was slightly tighter gauge. So I'm making these on 3.5mm, and I love these, by the way. This is my go-to sock making needle. It is the Nova Cubics from Knit Pro, and they are the squared ones, and I think these are discontinued, unfortunately, which is such a shame. I don't have a lot of these in the sock. I do have quite a few in just the interchangeable needles, but yeah, for sock they're amazing for socks. Okay, so this is Lettlopi, and I had this skein. This is Violet Heather, and I had one skein of this. Initially I thought I'd make it into mittens, but to be honest, this kind of shade is not really my shade. I also have this shade, which is Royal Fuchsia. Again, they're not my shades, and I thought even mittens, I really want them to be in shades that I would enjoy looking at and wearing. And I enjoy looking at this and this. I don't think I'd wear it though. Even though technically I've had people say these colours suit me, I don't know. I don't want to wear them. Not right now anyway. But in socks, I really don't mind. So I had a few shades that I mixed in. So, and I had this, this drops Kid Silk in, I think it's the shade Mauve or Malva. It might be the shade 31 from memory, but I will double check that and put it below. And I held that with I held the same mohair with all three colours, which I'll show you. So this one is the violet heather at the start. I don't know if this shows better this way. Maybe this is better. Yeah. So this is violet heather, and then this is the royal fuchsia. Then I did some just one by one, just random. This was totally random, and I think that's what. Yeah, that's why I knit this whole sock first rather than knit two at the same time, because I wanted to do a whole sock totally randomly, like totally mindless, just putting in colours as I was going along, as I just wanted to change, and then making a second sock mimicking it as much as possible. I'm not too fussed if it's not exactly the same, but yeah. So this is the royal fuchsia, and then this shade here, this red shade, again, it's being held with this, is the red brick heather, which is one of my favourite shades. And Lettlopi. I do like red brick heather. So this was some shade that had been left over from the Heartwood sweaters. That still breaks my heart. Yeah. So because that's going to be frogged, I've kept it aside, but this was left over from the yoke, so I thought I'd add it in. I still have a lot of this actually, and I want to make another garment with this, just all this one colour shade, a garment in all one colour of this shade, which would be quite nice. And yeah, I did some more one by one. I was trying to put the one by one at the places where I knew that I get a lot of mending, done. But I wasn't too fast. I then did my short row here, and then I went up. And I think this satchel is probably more like 9 centimeters, so it's a wee bit taller than usual. And Lettlopi with the mohair on the 3.5 millimeter is very nice and dense, very nice. You can see that if I try to bring this apart, it really isn't. So I'm hoping that this will give me a lot of longevity, and it won't require me to mend it so much. And it will be warm. Hopefully it'll be warm. It's a lovely fabric, by the way. The Lettlopi with the mohair. It's a lovely fabric. This kind of density, I don't think I'd wear it in a garment. I think it'd be really warm, really hot. I would wear it in mittens though. Maybe even a hat, but not a jumper. Okay, so that is my cast-ons, which is really good, isn't it? That's only 3, so 3 cast-ons. So what should I show? Okay, I'm going to show some purchases I bought. I mentioned 2 purchases that I've not been able to show. Right, let's show the one that I mentioned that I bought from my ivory room. So in my previous podcast, I had made items out of Rama Vamps, and I didn't show the yarn at that point because I'd actually packed it away. And there's only 2 balls I had out, and these were these 2 balls. Let me show this first, and this one. So this was the beige shade that I used in the mittens I showed in my last podcast. This is 406. This is a lovely shade, by the way. I've got maybe about, let me put this, I think it's gone a bit dark. Can you see the colour? I've got one whole ball left, and I was thinking of just making another small headband or a scarf, I'll say. This is just me mucking around. It's not really any kind of pattern. But yeah, this is 406. I got one ball of this shade, which is a very unique shade. It's beautiful. I wish I had got more, but this is all that was left in stock. Like I said, my ivory room had a very good sale on Roma. I really hope she's not just continuing it, because I love Roma. But maybe it didn't sell well for her, I don't know. It's the shade 412, and I believe it's called Mint Green Melange or Mint Green Heather, but it's a shade that I've not seen on any other website except hers. And she had a few shades like this. She's had like this, the ones I'm about to show you, the Pine Cone and the Copper Red, were also shades that I've not really seen anywhere else. Like the other brand that the other shop, well, two shops now that have Rama Vams are Knit, Knit. Oh, what's that? Hold on. I think my phone's telling me something. Oh, sugar. I'm getting a parcel soon. Well, they better knock on the door. What was I saying? Yeah, and the other one is Fibre Yard now, and both of them don't have this shade. So it's a shame. I would have got a garment quantity of this shade. It is quite stunning. As it is with one shade, it's either going to go into a colourwork item or a headband. So we will see. So I want to show these three shades. So this is actually the packaging that was sent by my Ivory Room, and it was like a double. There was a similar box on top of this that was like sellotaped on, that had my address on it, and it was just really nice packaging. It was very secure. I had put it back in its box and sellotaped it, but I've opened it up to show you today, so I'll just re-sellotape it when I'm putting it away. And I wrote this so it tells me what's inside. But this is my Rama Worms. I feel like I'm opening it with you guys again. Oh, I might just keep this outside so it's kind of inspirational rather than like packing it away, because out of sight, out of mind day, and this is so lovely. So I'll show you what I got. This is 105. This is a copper red. Again, this is a shade that I don't think other websites have. I might be wrong, but it's a beautiful dark red. It's not a melange shade, which is what I usually go for, but it's a stunning shade nonetheless. There was only 3 left. I bought all 3. I would have bought more if there was more on the website. Again, the sale was quite good, so the sale was very good, to be honest. I've not seen Rama at those prices in the UK. So this was the first. Yeah. And then I got this shade, just Mottled Sand, 308. This is a beautiful neutral shade, a wee bit darker than usual beige, but not so dark as to be called a brown, maybe a very, very, very light brown. It's called Mottled Sand. I think these two colours together look very nice. And some kind of colour work. I've got 3 of this and 3 of this, and that might make me a very generous cowl or even a 2-colour shawl or scarf. I don't know if I'd want to have this in a shawl, 2 colours, both of these in the shawl, but we'll see. I've still to decide. Or I could just have both of them in a very large colourwork garment. Now the third shade is a garment quantity. This is Pine Cone. This is a stunning shade. Again, I've not seen this anywhere else. I'm pretty sure Knit doesn't have this shade, because I was trying to compare it on their website with my Ivory Room and I couldn't find this shade there. And Fibre Yard doesn't have it either. Look at that. Golden brown. I love this type of brown. It's got such a warmth to it. I'd love to be invoked in something like this. And this colour, the actual number is 413. So soft in the skin. It's so light. It's incredible that this is actually, when I hold this up, it's difficult to realise it's 50 grams. I feel like it's a lot less. But it's, yeah, it will be 50 grams. It just feels so airy. I really do like Vamps and Favel and the whole kind of Rama family. I really do want to knit with phenol. I've heard a lot about that. And I do have, like I said before, I do have garment quantities of that. It's just, it's a smaller gauge, so I've not really had the opportunity to, you know, go for that when I'm kind of knitting on the bigger gauges right now. Okay, I also bought some yarn from the Black Friday sales, and specifically by Laxton's. Now the reasons why I went for this is the sale was too good, sorry. It was 50% off. And I wanted to buy something. I wanted to buy this yarn for a very long time to see how it was like, but I just couldn't justify it because I thought I've got a lot of yarn. You know, it's not the most cheapest one. It's not expensive, actually, even in full price compared to other brands, but it's still, like, for me, if I want a garment quantity, you know, it would be up in the almost £100 range. But this was 50% off, and this is a sheepsoft DK weight. So I'll show you. I'll have to get this out. I think, yeah, I'm going to try. Yeah. So the first shade I got was Ribblesdale, which is a marled shade. Let's see if it's got a name on it. Oh, Beamsley. Maybe I was looking at Ribblesdale and decided not to get that. Well, that's bad. Sorry, this is Beamsley. Yikes. Okay, and it says a DK Marl. Spun by Laxton's from fleece to finished yarn in less than 50 miles. British wool. This is Blueface Leicester and Masham. I have a feeling that the Blueface Leicester is 75%, Masham 25%, but it doesn't actually tell you percentage, so I might be wrong. But for some reason, that number has been stuck in my mind that this is what it is, but it doesn't actually specify the percentage. So that's the details. It's recommended on 4mm. 100 grams equals 225 meters approximately. I don't know what that is in yards. And it gives a 32-stitch gauge, roughly, for 4mm. And it's a green shade that's mixed with this lovely kind of bits of yellow and a lighter grey. And my intention is the Neruda shawl by Natasja Hornby, but it's not 100%, so it might change. I've got 600 grams of this DK weight. That's probably a cropped garment for me. But again, knitting on 4mm would take a long time, so I don't know when I would be casting this on. You know, it might not be this next year. But that is Beamsley Dale. And then the other shade I got is this one. This is a neutral shade. I'm gonna Coverdale, yeah. I knew that, but I thought I'll read it again, just in case I'm wrong again. Coverdale. Again, the exact same specs. It's a DK weight, 225 meters, 200 grams, 4mm needle, and it's a very neutral beige shade. So it looks kind of grey on camera, but it is more of a, let's see if it looks on a white background. It is probably slightly, I wouldn't say it's more of a beige, I would say it's right in the middle between a beige and a grey, like a greyish kind of shade. Very, very neutral. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a natural shade. My intention for this is one of the first jumpers I ever saved in my knitting journey. This is almost 3 years ago, and it's a free pattern, or at least it used to be free. It's by Espace Tricot. They have made some of their patterns on sale now, like rather than free. So I don't know if this is one of those, but back then it was free and I had downloaded it, which I'm kind of grateful for. And it's called the Night Blooms sweater. And it's knit up in a grey background. So the main colour is this kind of shade of grey. And then the colour work on the yoke is a beautiful flower in between like two border rows. And it's in a dark, dark blue. And I have Hull Super Soft in the shade Vintage Heather. And I think that will be nice as the contrast with this. Well, the Holstell double will be a nice contrast with this because that will make it a DK weight. And knit it up because I love the, oh, sugar. Okay, that's my parcel. So hold on. I think okay, sorry about that. I was getting notifications that someone's at the door, but there's nobody at the door and it's been 5 minutes, which is so annoying. Yeah, so what I'll do is I had one more thing that I wanted to show. It's not an acquisition, but it's something I've been working on. Probably from not the start of the year, but you know, maybe from like the third to the fourth month, and I have been making up these little squares, specifically of Nutiden. And some of these are Nutidens I have used already, and some of these are Nutiden that I know I've got quite a lot of, so I can afford to make a square. And my intention is with these to basically make enough squares to make a garment, like a cardigan. I've seen some of these kind of cardigans, like these colour block square checked cardigans on Pinterest, and I really like the look of them. So I'm completely improvising and freestyling this. I don't really have a pattern that I'm going on specifically. I have a vague idea of a drop shoulder garment that I can kind of convert into a cardigan. And I think I can do that quite easily. I don't think I need any kind of special pattern to do that. I won't have too much shaping on it, like on the shoulders or anything. And I want it to be oversized, so maybe that will eschew the need for shaping. But yeah, so I have been casting on with 32 stitches, and I use a cable cast on and loose, I think it's a stretchy bind off, Jenny stretchy bind off. No, I think it's actually a normal bind off with one needle size up, possibly. I've got the notes of this actually in a document I'm making about it, just so that I'm aware, so that every single square is fairly equal. I do roughly 40 rows. I say roughly because for some colourways I've noticed that I need to do less or more depending on how thin they are. But in general, the 32 stitches was supposed to give me 20 centimetres, and it's roughly that much. And I will block these out to 20 centimetres roughly. I slip the first and the last stitch, and I will be sewing it up. I will be seaming them together using this kind of slip stitch edge. And the colourways I've done are, so I'll show this one because this is, I'm pretty sure this is, yeah. So this was a shade called Equivoque. It was actually a lucky charm, and the Equivoque lightened up into this shade Sunniva Liuv. And this was like, up until here, this was one kind of plate of a sample of a lucky charm I got, or was it a sample? I can't remember which one. This is a beautiful shade. Because of this sample, I think I bought this shade in two plates, 100 grams. I've not got garment quantity. I would have liked one, but at the same time, if I was going to choose between this one and the Sunniva Liuv, it would have been this one, because this feels nicer. It's a softer, and this has an almost matted type feel to it. It is soft. It's a brown that's got bits of peach and green in it, which is just stunning. It's one of those browns definitely that I would have liked to get a garment quantity of, and it lightened up into the ISL shade, the Sunniva Liuv. I'm going to call it ISL because that name is ridiculously long. I'm sorry. And the ISL shade here. And I mean that with affection. It's just, if I'm going to keep on saying it, then it's going to have to like get shortened up. I love this shade. I did mention in my last podcast that I bought more from Fibre Yard. I'm so glad I was able to get it from there. I think Equivoque is still there as well. So we'll see. We'll see if I get that as well. But this shade has bits of, it reminds me of hay with bits of like, you know, these golden and red fibre just popping out. And I started off this this square with the ISL, but then I started marling in a shade called Visaria. So the middle of this is Visaria, and the ISL held one strand each. This is all in 5mm. Every single square is on 5mm, and then it goes up to just Visaria. Visaria is like a elder pear shade, light pear shade. And then I have got Hofta Sister, which is gorgeous. This is the shade of the Buca hat I just made, but in Nutiden rather than Varv. I love this shade. I never managed to get Hofta when it came out, but I'd seen that shade so many times. Oh, now it's the parcel. Hold on. Right, I am out of breath, but I think that's going to be the last of the interruptions. That was the only thing that was due to be delivered today. So, oh, right, okay. What was I doing? Hofta Sister, beautiful, beautiful shade. This is the one that I want that collar on. So I want to make like a Henley type with a collar and Varv. I think that'd be so cool. But I love these shades. Do you know, when you start making clothes for yourself, you start realising a lot more about what your likes and dislikes are. And I would never have guessed that I loved this shade. But I can see from the ISL, from Hofta Sister, and I mean, Maybe that's one of the two. I love Harvest. I would never have thought myself as being somebody who likes yellow. And I don't think I like the bright sunshine yellow still, like the egg yolk yellow, but mustard yellow and this hay-like yellow, I really like them. It's definitely a shade that I would introduce to my wardrobe, you know, and yeah, I do like this kind of shade. So I'll show this one. You've probably seen this before. I have shown Vagabond by Nutiden. This was a thicker shade. This was one of the squares where I didn't go up to 40 rows. I think I stopped at 38 just to get the same height as the rest of them. So although it's like a mindless type of project that I'm really enjoying to pass the time, sometimes you have to think about these small things. But Vagabond, beautiful. I love this shade. It's a very lanolin rich, thick shade. It feels lovely on the hands when you're knitting with it because it feels like your hands are being moisturized. And this is I made a swatch using one strand of this. And a strand of Drops Kid Silk in the ash grey, which is a darker grey. And it was stunning. It was really, really nice. I liked it. But because I have 2 plates left of this. I had bought a garment quantity at 800 grams. I ended up using 600. I made the drop by Ailbiona McLochlainn, and I only used 600 grams for that, which is pretty cool because I wasn't making it cropped. But then this was just a thicker shade, and it's probably more like a chunky gauge. But what was I saying? Yeah, I've got 200 gram plates, 2 plates of 100 grams each, and I was thinking because it's quite a thick shade that I might hold it single stranded with mohair, and that will give me almost like another garment, a cropped garment. But I don't think it will be with the grey because from what I can remember, this was almost 2 years ago, this purple aubergine shade was dyed on a brown base, not a grey base, not a white base or a natural black shade. It was a natural brown shade. So I believe that's why it's got this kind of nuance to it, that aubergine, like eggplant kind of feel to it. And I think pairing this with a dark brown mohair might be a lot more interesting. But again, there's so many plans and not enough time to do them all. This is a shade that I got a while ago. Oh, this is probably my first year of purchasing Nutiden. This is called Bregne, Brgyd. I have a garment quantity of this. I might knit this up actually because when I say garment quantity, it means 800 grams. I've got a 500 gram bag and a 300 gram bag. So I knew, like, even though I've not knit this up, I'm comfortable to dip into the ones that I've got a garment quantity of. I wouldn't be comfortable dipping into something like this if it was only a 500 gram bag of it, if you know what I mean. And although I've only got 500 grams of the ISL, I do have, this was like basically a lucky charm, so it was a sample already. And Bregne is a shade that is maybe 2 shades darker than Jarnvilja. It's very nice. It's got a reddish hue to it. But it is definitely more of a brown shade that's got a bit of mauve and red in it. So you can see those bits of, I think it's a pink, dark pink. But it's beautiful, it's lovely, it feels really nice. And it does remind me of a lot of the way of a darker Jarnvilja, but it doesn't feel as, doesn't feel like that. Okay, put these over here. This is another garment quantity I have, and this is a stunning shade called Rustic. This is so beautiful. As the name suggests, it is a rusty orange shade with some dark coral salmon bits of gold. It's a muted, it reminds me of Ottipad, but a wee bit more muted. This is stunning. I really want to work with shade as well, but I don't know what to cast on first. Either the Bregne. I was thinking a cardigan in Bregne, maybe the Traveller's cardigan or the Gentle Lopi. I don't know. when you've got too much yarn and too many options, you have this decision fatigue, and it's always crippling me because things like I thought I had decided that I'm going to make my live, which is one of my favourite colours, into the Felix cardigan, and now I'm double thinking that, and I'm not sure. I'm thinking, no, I don't want to, because I'm holding that with one strand of Sheepsoft actually from by Laxton's, and it's their fingering weight. I think it's lighter than the fingering weight. It's on a cone, and it's the shade Aisgarth, which is a stunning shade on its own. But I feel like now that I should just use live on its own, or not combine it with anything, and just make like a crop. I've got 600 grams of that, so just make a, a garment. I don't know, but this is rustic, so pretty. And then the last shade I've got is Agtarum, which is a beautiful yellow-based forest green. The colour I've bought recently at Northern's Loose, I think it's called Northern Lights. It's it's a dark green as well, and I think it's more of maybe a blue-based, like a tealy green. It's very interesting. It reminded me of a shade Over Nedged. That was stunning. I don't think there's been a shade like that again. I missed it. It was before my time, before I was introduced to Nutiden. But because I've got two garment quantities of these type of greens, I've got Agtarum, I've got 800 grams of this, and I've got Snaret. I've not got 800 grams of Snaret, which is why I didn't dip into that. But because the Northern Loose shade that I just recently bought seemed like it's a different type of green, and I thought it was maybe like justified in buying the garment quantity. This reminds me so much of grass, just the outdoors in general. The Snaret shade, because I've got like plates of it outside. There's a difference there's a very slight difference between colour actually. They're quite similar, to be honest. Snaret's maybe slightly darker and Agtarum is slightly lighter, but not by much, honestly, not by much at all. However, there's a difference in feel. Snaret is a lot softer and Agtarum is a wee bit more rustic. It's more kind of robust and rustic, so I think the actual strand is a wee bit stronger and thicker, and Snaret is more silkier. I've not knit with Snaret, so I can't really say, but this was a comfortable colourway to knit with. I think even single stranded didn't cause too many issues. Oh God, this is so nice. Yeah, so I'm just thinking that I'm going to basically lay them all out once I've got enough squares. I calculated on my document how many squares I would need. If one of these is 20 centimetres in width, and I want something that's an oversized cardigan, I had kind of calculated that, because I'm going to add in, if I'm going to make it into a cardigan, I will add in a button band at one point, and obviously I'll add in the rib, and like the hem. So that will add on length and width as well. So yeah, it's a project that right now is mindless, but at one point I'm going to have to sit down and think about it, block all these, seam all these together, and then start constructing it. I'm thinking that every time I work with Nutiden, and if I've got a wee bit left over, then I will add, make more squares. The only one I've not done that with is the recent one I finished, like the Karl. So this shade, actually I've got it on now, so I feel like it just doesn't fit with the vibe. Like this is like such a nice, delicate, light, because like this is a Karl shade here, right? This one. It's like an icy blue. And I feel like all these shades so far, just by coincidence, like because they were the ones within reach, and these were the ones that were coming up in the Lucky Charms, they're all kind of warm shades, all autumn-like shades. So I don't know if it's worth maybe making Karl. I'm thinking, I didn't initially start off with having like a colour scheme. I thought any scrap, like any kind of, leftover would go into this garment. But now that I've got these laid in front of me, I feel like I'm really loving the warmer shades, and I want to continue on with this theme, that anything that's a warmer, darker, maybe like if it's the Vidunder, I think that would probably fit in, but not the Karl or the Orakel. So yeah, I think that's somebody home. Right, I will wrap this up, but this is the last thing I wanted to show for this podcast. These are my Nutiden shades. I will add on to this, and this might be something I won't show for a while now. I just wanted to show it because I'd started it. Like I said, I started it last year. I started this around about, when did I get this shade? I think it was this summer, early summer, and this will probably go on for a while. So yeah, I will stop there now because I've got a lot of housework to do. I've got a lot of hoovering to do and cleaning up, and that's going to be the rest of my day. So I wish you have a good one. I hope everyone's safe and well and healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.